Hey everyone, Chris here. Thanks for joining me on this detailed breakdown, a look back into Monday evening. It was a bust when it comes to severe weather, but if you remember back, over the weekend we were kind of hinting at, hey, the threat is conditional now. We had some forecast data coming in, basically the high resolution data coming in and saying, whoa, wait a second. We actually need these storms to fire to be able to maximize the scenario. So if you remember, we ran into the day on a level 3 and level 4 risk of severe weather, and this is what we ended up with in central Iowa as far as storm reports. We had a handful of wind reports over Story County and some damage as well in the northeastern part of the county, and that was probably the best cell we saw, and that was the final one we saw as well. A little bit earlier into the evening, we did have a tornado-warned storm, did produce some tree damage down into Cass County, Adair, some small hail. Never did give us a tornado, but that was a storm that was trying its darndest to get going. Where the action was up and to the north. You see a lot of hail reports. There were a few tornado reports as well. As we put this into motion, you'll see all those reports along the line of storms up there. The conditions were a bit more favorable in southern Minnesota and northern Iowa, and we knew that going into Monday morning. But in central Iowa, we had one big concern, and that's, did we have a triggering mechanism to get those thunderstorms to go up? And as you see here, we did have a couple of storms able to overcome. But why didn't it happen on a wide-scale level? Now, we had plenty of energy. As we take a look at the scene, 7 o'clock, there was a lot of energy there to use at our disposal. But I want to drive the computer here. We'll switch over our products, and I'll show you the reason why that, we just didn't see it come to fruition. Now, if you can watch my mouse coming in from southern Minnesota, this is about 5 o'clock or so, 4 o'clock. I want to advance to 5 o'clock. And you can see those storms ripe over southern Minnesota. I do have station plots here, but there's some agitated clouds descending to the south over western Iowa. Now, either side of this boundary, because it is a boundary, the dew points are significantly different. Over much of Iowa, those dew points are in the 60s. Back into Nebraska, they slash off into the 30s. So this is what we call a dry line, and we don't really see those all too often coming up into Iowa, let alone southern Minnesota. That one made it all the way up into Minnesota as well. But this, in a sense, acts like a cold front does. It's a wedge driving through the atmosphere and trying to kick up those thunderstorms. The dew points are shown here. So they're most robust in Iowa, and then each line going to the west is a removal of 2 degrees on that dew point. So you can see there's a pretty big difference, and it's probably even more focused than what the data gives credence to. New data coming in. I have to back things up slightly. Okay, let me turn off the dew points, and I want to show you the wind streamlines here, because this is the reason why. We have the dry line from southern Minnesota into western Iowa, right? Well, that's that wedge that's moving through the atmosphere, but the winds are running basically parallel with the length of the dry line. Now, that is not good if you want to see storms build up. That's our triggering mechanism. Ideally, we'd like to see those winds tilted into that boundary a little bit more, perpendicular, if you will. If you think like you're driving a car, you have 2 cars side by side in their lanes driving forward, all is fine. Nothing's going to happen. But if one car turns and starts driving into you, right, it's going to cause a wreck. Same thing in the atmosphere. If you have that wind turning into that advancing boundary a little bit, it hits it, and it gets shoved upwards into the sky, and that's how our storms form. So we actually did have a significant amount of energy to use. This is the same time, 5 o'clock right here. The color contouring denotes our energy at the time, and these hash marks going across it is the lid on the atmosphere, the cap. You probably heard that talked about yesterday. A cap literally suppresses that energy from rising or tapping into that energy, that air rising up into it. It hits that lid and stops. So if you think like a hot air balloon, you fill the envelope with the warm air and it rises through the atmosphere. But if you encounter a layer of air that's warmer than what's in the balloon, it's going to stop unless you heat it up even more, or in the weather world, you can actually break that by adding moisture into it as well. And we had our cap removed, and in western Iowa we had the sunshine, temperatures warmed up into the 80s. Eastern Iowa, that lid held firm all day, but there was a window in western Iowa where we were able to get it done. But the reason those storms didn't fire is that lack of convergence along the dry line. There was also one other consideration that we saw days in advance that I didn't necessarily like, and I'll show it to you here. In the mid-levels, we had a positive tilt to our storm system as a whole. Ideally, we'd like these storms to line up from northwest to south and east, the way my mouse is going. But if you run down the perpendicular gradient here to those black lines, it's running north and east to south and west. And if you kick that around a little bit so we get that negative tilt, it helps increase the parameters associated with it. So that's also one thing to consider days in advance. Maybe hold off on saying, ooh, it looks ripe. Things could be better. If that trough would have been tilted around in a different manner, we would have had a better setup overall. Briefly before we go, we did get some great glamour shots. These are crepuscular rays coming in, the rays of sun hitting through the gaps between the thunderstorm clouds, or in the other sense, anti-crepuscular rays as well. It actually creates shadows. The two kind of go hand in hand. We saw a lot of pictures like this coming in across the metro yesterday. But that's the reason why we didn't see significant, widespread severe weather. We just couldn't trigger those thunderstorms, and the couple we did were racing against time because the cap was actually building back in as we went deeper in the overnight, so I had a hard go of it. Thanks for joining me on this bonus broadcast. No matter where you're watching me from, I do appreciate you checking in on this, and sometimes a simple explanation will do, and that's exactly what we had right here. Just that one little thing. We didn't have that convergence along the dry line. Take care, everyone.